Okay, hello everyone. I'd like to call our December meeting of Planning and Zoning, call it to order. And just a quick reminder that we are an advisory council. We review the issues before Planning and Zoning and make a recommendation to the City Council. That's where the ultimate decision is made. Our City Clerk, Tammy, if you'll go ahead and do a roll call, please.
Okay, Mr. Fasagi,
Here.
Mr. Cox,
Here.
Mr. Crease,
Here.
Mr. Elsey,
Here.
Mr. Henderson is absent tonight, Mr. Kerrigan.
Here. Okay, we're gonna move on to the consent agenda and minutes. We don't have minutes, so we're gonna review those at the next meeting. Is that correct? Okay, all right, so the first order of business is 111 38th Street setback variance. We have a staff report, and the applicant has requested a variance to a city council decision made regarding setbacks for a single-family home on combined lots in the townhome district. The council decision was to require 7.5 feet on each side of the structure, and I know our staff consultant, Laura, is going to take us through a summary on this. And then after that, we will turn it over to public discussion.
Good evening. For the
Laura,
record,
if we're going to do the quasi-judicial in this process also, you need to make any disclosures up front relative to conversations with the applicant. Have any of you all had any conversations with the applicant?
No, I did go to the property though Saturday afternoon. I went to the property, looked at the staking, did some measurements, and I was out there Saturday afternoon about 4:30.
I visited the property today.
All right. But no conversations with the applicant? Okay. And then any witnesses would need to be sworn in?
Okay, for the public's understanding, since this is a quasi-judicial hearing, any members that speak would need to be sworn in.
Does that include asking questions?
It would be anybody who's going to talk.
Well, I'll stay with just in case.
So if you want to swear in.
Okay. All righty, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
So I
So
hope you-
help you God. So help you God.
Yes.
I do.
Okay.
I'm
Tammy, do you
sorry.
want the cannabis?
All right, Laura.
Certainly. For the record, my name is Alara Mills-Gutcher. I'm a certified land use planner, and I have been sworn in. This application is for a setback variance for the two sides of a single-family home located at 111 38th Street. And there is some history with these two parcels, which are lots 6 and 7 of the Mexico Beach Plat, Unit 5. They came before the council a few years ago to have the lots combined, which according to our regulations requires city council approval as a decision, and received that approval during that meeting, and all of the information is here in your packet if you haven't had a chance to review it. But the decision at that time, and this was I believe in 2020, was to allow the combination of the lots with the stipulation that they meet the 7.5 foot setback on either side of the structure. At that time, the townhome district was being developed. It is a new zoning district for Mexico Beach. It is in the high density residential future land use category. And so the lot combination was granted with that stipulation. Unbeknownst, for whatever reason, the lots were not combined immediately, and a few years later they came back, and at the time Mr. Doug Baber was here. And because the lots had not been combined in short order, when they went over to, it's my understanding, they went over to the courthouse to have them combined, and the courthouse asked for a more recent letter showing that the city had approved the combination. And because it had been some time, Doug Baber brought it back before the P&Z and before City Council to make that decision again. So the issue here is the City Council made a decision to allow them to combine the lots with the stipulation that they have 7.5 feet on either side of the structure. They are meeting the front setback requirement. They are meeting the rear setback requirement with the information that they submitted. They are asking for side setback reductions. So on the south side, I think there's a diagram in your packet. The structure is showing something like a 5-foot setback from the property line. On the north side, there is an HVAC or some sort of equipment attachment that is reducing the setback to, I believe, less than a foot. The measurement wasn't exactly made. It was just a determination based on math of the diagram. We want that to be very clear for the record, so whatever they're requesting, if it's granted, we need to make sure that measurement is included in the motion. So Tim and I have had some discussions on this, on how to move forward, because it was a City Council decision to require the 7.5 feet setback. So the request before you is against the City Council recommendation or condition of the combination of the lots. So they are requesting to reduce to those measurements I mentioned to you. Because there wasn't enough evidence in the application to show that they meet the test of the variance requirements in our land development regulations, the recommendation I have for you is denial of the variance, and if there are some evidentiary measures that the applicant wants to bring before you tonight, you are certainly welcome to hear those and consider those. But as part of the application package, I didn't find that to be the case, that they could meet those 6 points in the land development code that allow them to receive the variance.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, at this time, we'll open the public discussion. If anyone would like to come forward. Lance.
Good evening. I'm Lance Watson with Southeastern Consulting Engineers. And like Laura said, when this was originally, these lots were originally approved to be combined, for some reason there was that stipulation that was the verbiage that got into the approval of 7.5 foot side setbacks. But it said the townhome, so and that's why this is requiring a variance. That's why we can't just go build to the townhome district setbacks, because that verbiage is there. That's why it has to be in the form of a variance. But in essence, what's being asked is just to use it's in the townhome district. It's in the townhome district, and what's essentially being asked is, can we use the townhome district setbacks since we're in the townhome district? So, that seems pretty straightforward to me. But that since that verbiage was in there, we had to go this route. Also, very similarly, this is on 38th Street. It's the next to the last lot on the left side of the road before you get to the Gulfront lots. Just to the east on 37th Street, almost the same exact scenario. Instead of the next to the last lot before the Gulfront lots on the left, it is the last lot before the Gulfront lots on the left. That lot was combined recently, and I worked with that applicant recently, like within the last 2 months, and submitted with a survey with a 0 lot line setback, and approved with the survey with 0 lot line setbacks on a lot combination in the townhome district, same exact scenario. So there's that. The grocery store, same exact scenario in the grocery store. We went through the variance process. I presented that. We had that come through, and same thing. We're not attached. We're not 10 feet away. We're 3 feet away, and that was approved. So this scenario has been approved. Literally 2 lots to the east. It's still in the townhome district. We're asking to use the townhome district setbacks that are in the land development code, because we are in the townhome district. But I did want to refer to a little bit of the staff notes real quick, if that's all right. Just a few things. The standards of review, and there's an argument for both sides, but there's a good reason. if there was an argument that we don't meet the rules of variances, something that I would recommend looking into is that's because it's tough to argue for the need of a variance when you're asking to use the setback for the zoning that you're in. So it's kind of hard to say, let me do what your land development code says I can do without, without contradicting yourself a little bit. But at any rate, so the first special condition is peculiar to the land. And I would say this is a prime example of that, because what's peculiar to the land is, or what's not peculiar to the land is a 0 lot line setback requirement, because we're in the townhome district. Number 2, the portion, and I just highlighted the portion on the second line, self-imposed hardship, nor could the condition of the circumstances be corrected or avoided by the property owner. I don't know how the property owner could have foreseen not being able to utilize the townhome district setback in the townhome district. So that would be my response to that. Number 3, the relief granted is a minimum degree of relief. I would say, given the relief of being able to use the townhome district setback within the townhome district, is about as minimal as it gets. Number 4, rights commonly enjoyed by other properties are subject to the same regulations and policies, meaning the land development code, meaning the lot next door, meaning every other lot in the townhome district using a 0 lot line setback. The grant of the relief will not be in derogation of the general intent and purposes of this code. The response was the request does not follow the general intent of the land development code. And I'm not real sure what part of 0 lot line setback intended to be 7.5 foot in the land development code, but land development code says 0 lot line setback in the townhome district, which is the district we're in. So I'm not sure how that would apply. The issuance of a variance will not create an inconsistency from the existing character of the area of the surrounding site, which is townhome district. Across the street, there is high density residential across a lot of streets, and there's no townhome district property 500 within a 500-foot radius or more than there's not a townhome district lot that does not have probably commercial property, definitely high density residential, tourist commercial within a 500-foot radius. So I don't know why that would apply to this lot, not every other townhome district lot. So that's the 6 areas that that says we don't meet. And the land development code right now, it says side setback 0 feet. It says for any parcel that shares a side boundary, not a front or back, side boundary with a parcel that is not zoned townhouse district, you must comply with a 7.5 foot setback. We have townhome district on both sides. And to further just kind of nail home why I don't, from a personal opinion, I've done a lot of, I've been before the board a lot of times, I've done a lot of designs here, hundreds, probably more than any other engineer in the city. And there wouldn't be a reason for a number 2 on today's agenda to change the language in the land development code if what we were presenting on the number 1 line item in the agenda didn't need to be changed to clearly explain why it's not possible to have, because the land development code is 100% in favor of what we're asking right now. And then number 2 line item behind it is, and I know we're not on that line item, we'll talk about that, but that's a request to change the language to not allow what we're asking for on line item number 1. So, and I'm available for any questions. That's just kind of the gist of it, but if you guys have any questions for me, just feel free to ask.
Any questions of Lance?
So, Lance, just, so in your opinion, building a single-family residence in the townhome district, when I think the spirit of the regulation, in my opinion, would have been the zoning district was created exclusively for townhomes. and I go back to the original council decision, you think the original council decision to stipulate the 7.5-foot setback is incorrect?
Well, two things for that. That was before the townhome district was adopted, number one. But also, it just my other client 2 months ago just got approved zero lot line setback. Part of the approval was the survey as in the approval documents. So there's that. But also, you're still in the townhome district. What's less invasive? They could go lot line to lot line with if you say, all right, well, don't build the argument right now in the staff comments is single family, detached single family, 7.5-foot setback. So we could build it 15 feet wider if we were to connect with a attachment easement. I mean, are we gaining minimizing the footprint by doing that? I mean,
I guess I'm trying to understand the hardship here.
the hardship is we're in a townhome district with zero lot line setbacks.
Well, I'm trying to understand the hardship. If you designed it like most single-family homes have to be designed to fit the 7.5 feet.
You can put a single family home on a commercial lot with a 12-foot front setback. Why not 20?
We're not considering that.
I know. What we're saying is why don't we meet the single family
I'm
home
not trying to be
setbacks of the single
argumentative,
family
I just
home?
asked a question. That's all I've got.
So it should apply to all zoning if we do that, and it's in the land development code.
Lance, did you represent them when it first came?
I did not.
Do you know why they may have accepted the 7.5 then and now?
Because they didn't have a representative. They did it as the owners. An owner don't come in with all the, the knowledge that you guys have and that I have of the land development code and what you're gonna run into down the road. Like, for example, what the Calverts ran into is they didn't understand that, that was a limiting factor. They send it to an engineer, which is me, and say, hey, I've got this lot, it's been combined, I'm in the townhome district, let's design a house. Oh, you can have zero lot line setbacks, let's do 4.8 feet, let's get a decent size, 30 foot, whatever it is, house. And you're still 4.8 feet off the property line, 4 foot 10 inches. Works great until, 4 months down the road, we've got full design plans, and there's no document for me to just, so there's no red flags that just pull up when we're designing to say that maybe there was some kind of language somewhere down in the past.
Do you or Laura know when this was originally went before the city council? I have another question.
Sure, to provide clarification, the townhome district was adopted in September of 2020 with ordinance 749, and the application for the combination came forward on October 7th, 2020. So it's really close in time, but technically the townhome district was created just a couple weeks before the application came forward.
When did they engage you or who to the builder when they figured this out? When did they just figure out this was an issue?
Probably about 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, something like after the plans were drawn to meet the townhome district, and I didn't know about the verbiage at the time, and I was surprised by it because my other client just got approval with no stipulation of zero lot line
Those are very
setback.
different cases. We can't really compare. They're not apples and apples.
Yeah, so if I just understand you correctly, your request is that we provide a variance to the original city council approval to combine the lots, stipulating that it goes to the 7.5-foot setbacks. But, and sorry if I'm putting words in your mouth, but this is what I think I heard. But you're saying, well, the city council didn't realize that this was about to be or had just been put into the townhome district, which doesn't require 7.5 feet, it requires 0. Is that an accurate simplification of
Right. Yeah, and I don't know what the council did or didn't realize at the time. I mean, we were all still getting nails out of our tires at that time, so there was a lot going on.
I
But,
remember, yeah.
and I don't know the exact, the date that Laura said, I don't know if that was the first reading, second reading, adoption, or what date it was signed, I don't know, but it's just a peculiar situation, being that that stipulation was done, but then it was put into the townhome district with the same, rules that apply to everybody else in the townhome district, except they don't in this one property.
So on that, that's my second question. You mentioned that there's a similar lot, a street over, that had basically this very same thing approved. Was that lot was that lot on 37th Street? Or was it
37th.
across the street on 38th
It
Street?
was 37th Street on the east side of the road.
Yeah.
Furthest.
Okay, and that's in the townhome district too, correct?
Right.
So
Seventh on the other side?
It's the exact same scenario.
yeah. I'm just making sure that we're getting apples to apples and oranges to oranges.
And we decided to townhomes just see where that also.
Well, it comes up with a different, this district, once you hit 37th Street. 38th Street's different than 37th.
Yeah, so that's another question I
That's,
had.
it's a townhome district. It's the same zone.
The homes that are directly across the street from it to the west, that is not the townhome district, correct?
Right.
And those are single-family homes that adhere to a 7.5 foot setback.
Right.
The neighbors across the street.
Right, and that's the case for all the across the street from every townhome that adheres to the townhome district adheres to single family because they're different zoning on the west side.
But this would be a single-family home, not a townhome.
Well, I got a question for you. Maybe you come here and let me show you something in the book right here I have. Right here for townhomes. It comes up here. Absolute zero. Down here, the 7.5 feet comes in if the boundary is not with the townhome district.
Correct. This
So,
is a city
that's
council decision. The city council, basically it was a condition of the approval of the combination of the lots that they have 7.5 feet on the sides. That was part of the decision that they made to allow them to combine the lots. And just as a little bit of history, when we created the townhome district, I did an analysis of what was on the ground pre-storm, because what was happening is people were coming back in and wanting to rebuild their townhomes, but we didn't have a mechanism for them to have a zero setback. Everything we had setback requirements. So we did an analysis, I did an analysis of aerial photography and lot sizes, and throughout Mexico Beach, which nothing really to the east is a townhome, it's really kind of central and west. We created the townhome district to enable those townhomes to rebuild, because otherwise they couldn't, they would have had to have a setback. And these were 3 townhomes on these parcels prior to the storm, so they were included in the townhome district that was adopted in 2020.
I remember sitting at all the council meetings listening to all that. I was on P&Z back then. But is there a reason why the council, just for them 3 lot combinations, went something different than what's here in black and white?
I wasn't here for that meeting, I can't testify to that, so I don't know what the conversation was when they put the stipulation on. Mario Gisbert was here at the time, and he had someone named Gina helping him with a lot of the planning issues.
Gina Johnson.
Yeah, so I wasn't involved with that decision or that report.
So that was a written stipulation to combine them 3 lots. They had to put that in 7.5 feet.
That, according to the
Correct.
meeting records, we found that's the case.
So I'm just speculating here, I'm a retired engineer, but I'm just speculating that from my perception of the council decision, they knew when someone's combining 1 or 2 or 3 lots, that someone's looking at building a single-family home. So in my view, that's probably why they put the stipulation in. Is you're gonna put a single-family home on combined lots, then you're gonna have to adhere. And there again, that's just speculation on my part.
Sounds reasonable.
But they didn't do it on 37th Street.
Each variance has to be individually looked at as an individual case. We can't compare across the board because we don't know the
I would say
issues.
you can compare a lot combination on a tourist commercial lot, or on a townhome district lot to a lot combination on a townhome district lot. Same scenario. Or you could go back and make it 3 lots again and do 0 lot line setbacks and have a 15-foot larger structure there. And I mean,
Well, without reviewing the record and knowing the evidence, we don't know that the
well, I've got it right
issues
here. If
surrounding
anybody
it
wants to
is
see, I've got
the,
the approval. And I
the
even got
approval
where I
of
emailed the
variance.
city to verify that survey was in fact what was approved as part of the approval.
well, you can enter that into the record if you'd like
Okay.
for review.
My sense here, I'm trying to find a way to say yes to this and I can't, because while I think you made excellent points in your intro to the reasons why this should happen, I think they're all trumped by the fact that the city council, whether rightly or wrongly, they put in the order, this shall be 7.5 feet. So I don't see how we can approve this going against that specificity that the city council gave us. The way I could get to yes is if they go back to the city council and they say, hey, oh, by the way, did you know that a month before you told us to have 7.5 feet, we actually created this townhome district that allows 0 feet. We go back to the city, they go back to the city council, they say, hey, we wanna ask the same question we asked 4 years ago, under this new set of rules that were actually in place at the time, we all didn't know about it. Can we get approval, can we get reapproval to combine the 3 lots together like you gave us 4 years ago with this 0 setback? That's how I could see a way to yes, but we can't do that here tonight.
I sort of agree with that, but continuing to open these cans of worms, what happens when Jack comes before this board and says, I've got a lot in low density residential, and just because I want a house that's an extra 3 feet wide, I need to encroach into the setback. And then it's variance after variance after variance.
If it meets the land development code.
Well, it wouldn't meet the land
This does,
for a townhome.
in a townhome district.
So I sympathize with you and your client that you're saying that this shouldn't be the case, that it was written at a 7.5 foot setback, but it was.
I think the only way I could get to a yes is if you were building something that was 0 lot line to 0 lot line. I mean, that's just,
A larger structure, more.
Large structure, yeah.
And I wasn't a part of the council then, but I agree with Steve that it appears that these were combined to build a single-family home, so therefore here are the regulations of a single-family home. And they're 7.5 foot setback, and everyone accepted that.
But just to be clear, just so he has options moving forward, it depending on obviously what the council does.
Right.
The planning is only, or at least a couple of plans only would be okay with a 15-foot wider structure.
Well, then you'd have to have that attachment easement.
Right.
Right, which I'm glad you got to that. I had a question too about the attachment easement. I think you guys could work through that, but speaking hypothetically, because I don't have this case here in front of me, but hypothetically, if the city council gave us the direction that yea, verily, you can combine the 3 lots, and, oh yes, it's in the townhome district, so 0 foot setbacks are acceptable, then that would be my path to yes, because I think you've made a great case as to, well, this is similar, they did it last week, they did it last month over here, they didn't really know, that's fine. But I think, unfortunately, the city council 7.5 foot directive negates all of the excellent points you made tonight.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to, if you'd come please state your name?
How are you? I'm Greg Botwell, I'm over your building department here. So I just want to point out a few things. They're relevant to this project, but I want you to understand what has happened and what is happening, and will continue to happen, as you said, sir. We keep pulling the lid off this can. So when we talk about the townhome district wasn't there, it was there when they platted the lots. It wasn't necessarily called a townhome district, but those lots were platted for townhomes. That's why they're so narrow. That's why they're so deep, okay? The problems come from the design and building code standpoint if this continues to happen. The setbacks cannot do their job. If I have a 0 lot line here and the gentleman to the left of me decides to build, he either has to attach to my property, or we could end up in a situation where you got 1 foot on each side and then I can't paint my building because I'm on his property. So there's a property maintenance issue. There's a fire separation issue. As we redo the LDR, which we have been in the process for a while, we're trying to address this. Roofs, are they gonna be sloped? Are they gonna be flat? If I have a pitched roof and she has a flat roof, where's my water going? If they're attached, it's going on her building. So, and as far as a grocery store, so commercial buildings don't count. Yes, you can build to a 0 lot line, but you have to have an attachment agreement. There's a reason for that. So a townhouse has a common law that you take away exterior maintenance, so we don't have to worry about that part. In addition, there is well, this doesn't apply here, I'm speaking in general, as we review the LDR, I know you guys will be a part of that. There's a public safety side to that. We have to be able to get first responders and equipment into a backyard. That's another reason we have setbacks. The LDR outlines the minimum distance between any building in the city of Mexico Beach to be 10 feet. Another thing we're going to bring, that should match our setbacks. So we get our 10 feet by 7.5, 7.5. Why isn't it 15 feet then, right? It would make it streamlined, cleaner for us that deal with it. So those are some of the issues, but so besides the property maintenance problems, fire separation, if I build my house to a 0 lot line and nobody stops me and I or it's not 0, let's take 0 out of it, it could be 3 foot. That limits what kind of windows, how many outlets I can have. If it doesn't limit me, it's going to limit my neighbor, right? And so we want to avoid a situation where I come in and I develop my project, but it stops my neighbors from building their projects. That has happened here. An attorney had to threaten a gentleman to get an attachment agreement who built under the build back ordinance. He put his townhouse right back where it was. We allowed that. We should have allowed that. His neighbor didn't meet that deadline, and the guy wasn't going to let him attach to his house. Well, he's on a townhome lot. There's no other, how else? He's going to build a hallway with a bathroom, so it's going to end up, right? So I believe that, just my opinion, but that's what I'm here for, so I'm going to give it to you. The 7.5 foot, this is not a townhouse. Going back to this specific project, yes, everything that was said is true. If this were a townhouse, it's not. It's a single family dwelling. It's not the same as a townhouse. That's like comparing hippopotamuses and rhinoceros. They're not the same. Okay? So this is a townhome, and the townhome district is set up, platted, zoned for a very specific structure, attached. Personally, my first problem with the LDR was where it allowable uses, and it says attached, which was taken out. I understand that didn't get put in there, I didn't know it, but it should be attached. We should have a common roof design, not necessarily that specific, but certainly pitched or flat, okay? And if you want to combine lots and build another animal in the townhome district, that is fine. I agree with that. You should be able to do that. But you have to meet the requirements of whatever animal you're going to put on that property, okay? It's no different than if I wanted to attach two commercial buildings that were crazy or they didn't go well together, they don't work well together. Well, we'd have to come up with a way to work that out. But the common wall on a townhouse provides separation, safety for both neighbors, and it eliminates the property maintenance of the exterior wall. So there's a lot more to not necessarily this project. I'm not arguing against this project. I just want you to know there's a lot more to this discussion than combining some lots and building. It's not a townhouse, and it shouldn't be treated as a townhouse because the building code is very specific on what a townhouse is. That's a definition. If it's not that, then we should treat it to whatever it is. That's what it should be treated like, and this is a single family dwelling. Is that something?
Sounds like what the city council did. Anybody else from the public? Lisa?
Lisa Logan. I just
Lisa,
wanted,
if you please state your address.
402 Maryland.
Thank you.
From the September 24th City Council meeting of this year, under City Administrator Mel Smigelski. He had a comment on this issue September 24th. He said, the 38th Street situation regarding the townhome district, there were 3 lots with one owner wanting to combine into one lot for a single-family home. They didn't build right-of-way. The intent of the district was to build common wall units. We're on record telling them they have to have 7.5-foot setbacks. Now we've had someone else wanting to buy 3 lots and combine it into one, and they say they shouldn't have to have 7.5-foot setbacks. The LDR states that the side setbacks are 10 foot, but the problem is you should have prohibited single-family homes in the townhome district because they were meant to build common wall units. That's just, it's already been discussed. Those statements have already been made. So the zoning and the districting that we have in this city is so messed up and has been for so long that the overriding issue is, once you get past this, y'all need to straighten out what's allowed in what district, and then try to convince the council to stick to it, because this happens, as all of y'all know, over and over and over again.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Okay, then we're going to close the public discussion. Council, any other discussion from the council?
I can see why they did what they did for the 3 lots. You know, I don't know if the city council looked at 2 lots the same way as 3 lots, but I can see that. But looking, this needs to be changed right here. With right here in black and white, it says side 0. And it says, for any parcel that shares a side boundary with a parcel not zoned townhome district must comply with a 7.5-foot setback. So it's saying 2 different things here. One says 0, and down here in the side note, it says 7.5 foot. It needs to go back, and this needs to be looked at, to be changed. So if it's combined 2 lots, it has to have 7.5 foot. 2 or 3 lots, 4 lots, doesn't matter. Anything 2 lots or more, 7.5 foot on each side, because that's a house. If it's common walls, then it's common walls. But that should be the same thing to look at whether it's going to be 2 lots or 3 lots. Because now you're looking at a common, that's almost a house there, if it's 3 lots or 4 lots. So this whole thing needs to go back and be readdressed. But the way the council did it and the stipulation, like you said, you can't just change it.
My recollection of it was the only reason for allowing single-family homes in the townhome section, even if it wasn't called the district at that time, was that there were townhomes that were taken away by the hurricane. There weren't controlling HOAs, and you had some people that wanted to rebuild and they couldn't because of others.
We're not ready to.
They were not ready to build or couldn't afford to build. Whatever reason, we allowed single-family homes, and you can go around Mexico Beach and see some of them were very, very narrow. They got creative, but they were allowed to build some smaller single-family homes in that space. This appears that it was understandable that it was going to be a pretty normal-sized home of 47 foot. Many of the lots in Mexico Beach are 50 feet wide, correct? So this was just slightly narrower than that. Sounds like why the city council implemented the 7.5 foot setbacks, because it was clear that it was going to behave like homes right across the street, single family homes.
Just a comment that regardless of whether I want them to be able to do this or not, within the last year or so, our variance ordinance was changed, and it's a very hard and fast, and it's very specific about what you have to meet in order to recommend approval of a variance. Just reminding folks that over and over, and I said that when we sat around this table and did it then. And I know why we did it, because we were reacting to just an awful situation at the time, but here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I got it here black and white, I take a copy of it, printed it out, and right there, the one sentence you're looking at, if the property owner or applicant presents no evidence that the property cannot be used without granting of a variance, disapproved. So that's it, that's what we agreed to.
If there's no further discussion, would anyone like to make a motion recommending approval or denial to the council?
I'll make a motion to deny.
Okay, we have a motion to deny. Is there a second?
Recommending denial.
Recommending denial.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Tammy, would you like to do a roll call?
Okay. Mr. Fasagi,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Crease,
Yes,
Mr. Elsey,
Yes.
Mr. Kerrigan.
Yes. Okay, thank you. All right, next item is the townhome district, single-family detached setbacks.
Yes, so this item before you is a discussion regarding an amendment to the setback requirements, not only in the townhome district, but in section 2.02.07, which talks about setbacks, and the definitions supplied in section 3.00.04 regarding setbacks and the subdivision regulations, and article 6, section 6.01.00 definitions of the setback. As I was looking at this, and just so you know, this is not a new discovery. Julia and I have been talking about this for a few months as some of these lots have been combined and now want to be used as a single-family home, and how she was able to implement the land development regulations and how it was confusing with the setbacks. So what happened when the townhome district was created, I was tasked to write that section of the code, but then within 6 months or so, and I wasn't part of it, so your discussion or explanation as to why the language was amended to allow single-family homes, because what was happening, I suppose, which I wasn't part of that discussion, was the townhomes were coming back, but not in together. So they were coming back individually and considered a single-family home because they weren't attached to something, and that's why they changed the language about 6 months later to allow single-family homes, because originally when it was written, it did not allow for single-family homes. It was purely for attached structures. So when they changed it and allowed for single-family homes, they didn't think about the setbacks. And so the setback language then didn't really apply to single-family homes in certain situations. So what was attempted was to create this footnote that Mr. Rock was referring to a little bit ago that spoke to the side boundary with a parcel that is not zoned townhome district, but what was not anticipated was that lots were combined and a single-family home was built inside the townhome district. That was not something that was thought about when whoever amended the code 6 months later amended it. So here we are, and now we're trying to make it clear and understandable that if you're inside of the townhome district, you are going to be required to have a 7.5-foot setback, irregardless, unless there's a common wall. So it's very clear cut. So if you're a single-family home in the townhome district, you're going to have 7.5 feet. If you're on the edge of the townhome district and you don't have a common wall, you're going to have a 7.5-foot setback. Only when there's not a common wall can you have the 0 attached. So that's why you see the footnote is stricken and the side setback. In fact, we need to strike that footnote under side in the table. That now we're requiring 7.5 feet unless there's a common wall or attachment easement. Then you can have a 0-foot setbacks. And I think that the way that's written is very clear, that no matter where you are, no matter what you're adjacent to, what district you're adjacent to, you are required to have a 7.5-foot setback unless you have an attachment easement. So then as we move down through the code and we get into the setbacks, there just needed to be some tweaking in order to make sure that we're consistent internally with the language that when we're talking about how we're going to assess these setbacks. So section 2.0, 2.07 setbacks, which personally I don't like that there's a whole separate section of setbacks. I think all of that should be inside of the applicable zoning district. But right now we have the second section that talks about setbacks. So the language has been amended so that it is consistent with the 7.5 feet requirement, no matter where you are, unless you have a a common wall, excuse me. If we look at page 3, there was this language that was adopted post-storm that created an exemption for 24 months following pretty much the storm, that allowed certain provisions because they wanted to allow people to build back as they were post-storm. But this is expired. It's been more than 24 months since the effective date of that ordinance. So it's really language that is not applicable anymore. So I just recommended deletion just to not be confusing and not somebody who might be reading this might not know what it pertains to. But since we're way past October 10th, 2018, I just recommend as a cleanup to delete this language. And then finally on the last page here is where I was speaking as I did a review of other parts of the code. We just need to have a consistent definition of how we measure setbacks. And because one area was talking about how to measure it one way and another area was talking about how to measure it a different way, I went through and made sure that all of the way we measure it is the same no matter where we're talking about it throughout the code. So we're measuring it from the exterior wall of the structure or any portion of the structure, which could be exterior stairwells, to the property line, and that is our definition from here on out.
Any questions of Laura?
I got a question. What I talked about before, there's nothing in here saying, and to me it should be added, if it's more than 2 lots are combined, you will have a 7.5 foot. There's no common wall, because then you get into a house, you're back to 3 lots again. And that's just what the building department talked about. So if you go more than 2 lots together, and you go into 3, you need to have that 7.5 foot. 2 lots can be combined with a single wall,
Right.
but when you go to 3, it should have a 7.5 foot.
You are required, when we strike through the 0 and say you have to have 7.5 feet unless you have a common wall, you're gonna have to have 7.5 feet on the side.
Yeah, but you can still combine 3 lots and be right there. It should say 2 lots or
You
more.
can combine 2 lots, and if you're a single family home, you're gonna have 7.5 feet on the side.
If you combine more than 2, you're still gonna have,
Yeah, no matter how many you combine, you're required to have the 7.5 feet on the
Now,
side.
if you go to common wall, you got that right in here. If you
Well,
go
sure,
right, then
sure.
there's nothing, and that's what building department just talked about. You putting a house there, and you're combining them together, and you might just have 10 feet next to you on each side that's connected together. This is what they talked about. You combine 3 lots together and put a house there, basically.
Yes,
You're saying, according to this right now, you would not need any side setback as long as you have a common wall.
that's right.
And that's what the whole,
So I think we're losing it. You are correct, and she is correct in what we're saying. I think the common wall part so instead of saying the word townhome, which is defined, we say common wall. Okay, so if you just have 2 of them with a common wall, then on each side you'd have the 7.5 foot.
Yeah.
If you had 3 of them with common walls, you'd have wherever they end, they'll be 7.5 foot.
Right.
Wherever they end, no matter how many they are, whatever. But if you just build one that's not attached to anything, that's 7.5 feet because you're not a townhome anymore.
Right.
You are a single family dwelling by definition, right? And so the language, I get what you're saying, and you're right, and she's right, but I also understand where she's saying, because in the variables here, we have to be careful we'll box ourselves in. And all this happened out of good intentions, wanting people to build their townhomes back. Of course we did. But now we're in a situation where it is going to get worse if we don't do something. And so if you just have the 2 lots, you got a common wall, wherever the exterior walls are of however many houses you got, don't think about them as one because they're not. That common wall is a firewall. It breaks townhomes up. Yeah, so okay. So you really 2 lots, they're connected, they're attached, but they're 2 structures. When we get to the exterior, it's 7.5 feet. you had that.
That's exactly how it will be interpreted.
I guess you're losing me here with the point of,
I think you have a point, though.
when you're
The
looking.
gentleman was talking about that when he was making his pitch,
Mhm.
that, well, why couldn't I just attach the townhome to my house? And then have a common wall. Now you have a house sitting on 3 lots that was intended to be 3 separate townhouses, and then you have a townhouse. Is that something for you all to consider?
But I guess I would ask the building department why that would be a problem if they have a common wall and it's a firewall between a single family home and
So what's
technically
gonna
a
happen
single
there?
family
So the
home.
common wall in itself defines the attached part, right? It could be duplex for that matter. Right. Which has got a separate set of standards in the building code than a townhouse. Okay, a townhouse is a 2-hour fire separation. On each side, you have 1 hour here, 1 hour here, both interior walls. A duplex just has a 1-hour firewall, separates it, okay? Townhouses are specific, and so when we say common wall, I'm not talking about a common wall. When I look at the plans for that, that's gonna be a 2-hour firewall. You're gonna design it that way. So if it was, theoretically, yes, you could build one big structure with a 2-hour firewall down the middle and some connecting doors, and you have 2 townhouses that now are like hotel rooms, if that's what you're saying. It's one big house, but it was built as 2.
But so,
So just, since you're both here, and I went through, and I can't believe what I saw in this zoning regulations. Who in the name of goodness thought it's good to give the council approval to give you the authority, yeah, go ahead and build this residential unit right in the middle of the general commercial? I mean, who,
So when you talk about the LDR later on the other, that's another problem.
and so in my view, this
Yeah.
is just me, old school gray beard, how, if it's a townhome district, it should be a townhome.
It should be for townhomes, absolutely. Really simple.
You know, and maybe I'm just too black and white.
And the lots, you gotta remember, these lots were platted for a specific one structure.
well, they're,
Connect.
when you look at it, they're like 10
Yeah.
feet wide. Well, I'm saying the townhomes have no limit, you could put 20 of them together.
Yep.
So you could have 4 lots, 4 lots, 4 lots, 4 lots, and then you're only gonna have 7.5 feet at one end and 7.5 feet at the other end. That's what I mean, it's.
But
That's
if
what
you're-
was there before.
But it's not 4 lots. If you could have,
Why couldn't you if you bought 4 lots and combined them together? You have 3 lots, 2 lots. There's nothing
right,
saying
but I'm
you can't do
building,
that.
but I'd be back to the 7.5 feet because I'm building my one structure. Or I could say, well, I got these 4 lots and I want to build 15 townhouses they'll fit on it. Then I got a density problem. Well, no, I wouldn't, because they're gonna be individuals. I'm gonna sell them individually. I'm gonna build 50, and you could do that.
Like a condo.
Just, well, yeah, kinda.
Yeah, basically.
I'm not trying to solve the problem here, but what happens if we put language in the LDC that says you combine any 2 lots together, it's no longer a townhome?
Well, and that would be,
Well, there might be some technical building official answers here, but from a planning perspective, if you have a 3,000 square foot house attached to a 900 square foot house, we don't have any say about the size of your townhome. That would still be an attached multifamily structure if they have that common wall. So don't get caught up that they have to exactly be the same. So if he wanted to build his single family home and have a common wall with a
10 foot
15 foot
yeah.
wide structure, from a planning perspective, there's nothing to say they can't do that.
or
Except
in
the
this
plat,
particular
the plat's
case,
gonna
we
say
just
you can't do it.
What?
The plat, if it's platted for townhome, would show you that you couldn't do that.
Only the plat.
Well,
could stop it.
except that they combined those 3 lots, so it's not
Yeah.
3 lots anymore.
Yeah, there should be a provision in here, like most cities have, of if you combine multiple multiple platted lots, you have an obligation to replat.
Well, so that's interesting that you said that because part of the discussion that happened in 2020 was that it was a replat. So I'm not sure if that was followed through or not.
It sounds like
If it was, it wasn't done officially, was it?
Sounds like it
So
wasn't.
it sounds like it wasn't because they came back a few years later and Doug said, wait, you didn't combine them? So I can't
If it
speak
was a
to any of that.
replat, you'd have to go through the formal platting process.
Right,
Each council member would have to sign a plat, it'd have to be recorded.
right, I agree.
The whole process, so if that wasn't done, then
And I
technically
don't
wasn't
know.
platted. But it should meet that definition, that if you combine a certain number of platted lots, then that becomes a replat, and they have to go through the platting process for that, which would then entail setbacks and that discussion, and stormwater issues. would have
Yeah, I
to
thought
be-
the council passed something like that a couple of years ago, because there was a lot of lots being combined together. And I have to go back through, but I'm pretty sure, sitting out here before I've been on this board, they passed something saying that the lots had to be platted within a certain amount of time, once they got combined.
And maybe that's why Doug brought it back, because they hadn't been in a certain amount of time recorded properly. He's not here to ask, and I wasn't here when that happened, so.
But that should be something included in the rewrite of the LDC about a
To
requirement.
require the
of plat.
replat.
That
Some
if
sort
you're
of
gonna
time.
do a combination, that whatever number, like I say, many cities go with 3, that if you do 3 platted lots, you're essentially replatting, and you have to go through that process.
And it sounds like you're recommending, and I would agree, some sort of clock, like it has to be replatted.
Well, it would have to be redone as a part of the combination, if that's what you're doing. Yeah. You wouldn't get one and then say, oh
Yes.
yeah, you're gonna come back and do that.
But I agree, if they don't do it within a 6-month period, then they'd have to come back have to request again.
So, thank you, Laura, for that. Then we're officially opening the public discussion. If someone from the public would like to come up, please state your name and your address.
I have a question, and my name is John Harrell, 43 First Street, last house in Bay County.
You know, you say that every time.
And it hasn't changed. The house hasn't moved. My question is a safety concern that the gentleman from the building department brought up. I understand that residential is 7.5 feet to make a total of 15 feet. But if you have a stationary wall and then 7.5 feet, will that be enough room for a fire truck?
When you say a stationary wall, we're
Uh,
talking
like
about
a-
townhouses?
Yes, sir. And then you have a residential that only has 7.5 feet. Is that enough room for a safety
No,
vehicle to get through there?
Not a vehicle, but it's enough room for a couple medics and a stretcher. So now keep in mind, we're walking a line on some of these things where, how much of your rights we take so that we can do that. So the 7.5 feet, 10-foot setbacks are there for fire safety,
Yes,
public, right, okay, so yes, you can get a stretcher, 2 medics and only.
Right, but I was thinking if there was a fire on the back side of the house.
No, you're not gonna, they're not gonna take.
So
that.
is 7.5 feet enough? It's just to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Is it enough if you have a stationary building and then that person wants to build a house with only a 7.5 feet? And it's a 3-story structure and they got a fire on the upper deck in the back and the property behind them is fenced. How do you get to it?
Through the house.
Pardon?
They're gonna go in the front door with the hose.
They're not
With a
gonna,
fire hose and,
they're not gonna take a fire truck off the road. I'm also gonna talk about.
oh, well, that's what I'm asking. That was my one
But
question.
there's
From a
plenty of
safety
homes,
factor, is it enough?
They're capable of fighting that fire on the house.
Okay, that's what I want to know. Make sure there was enough room. Thank you.
Towards commercial is 5 foot for info.
Would anyone else from the public like to speak? Okay, we'll close the public discussion. Is there any more comments from the board? So at this point, are we looking for a motion to approve this as written, or did we discuss anything else that needs to be added to it?
Did you have a footnote change that didn't make it into the draft, that you made a note during your presentation?
No, I did recognize that on page 2, under 7 development standards, where it says side, there's a footnote number 1, like against the word side, that we'll need to delete because there won't be a footnote anymore.
And where is that?
That one is outside.
Yep, just to delete that.
You also may want to include where it says if there is a, and put the word townhouse, because then you're clarifying it's got to be a townhouse that would have a common wall or attachment easement, then you get to.
This is in the zone townhome.
So if
Zone
there is a
districts.
common wall or attachment easement,
And
I
I
don't-
was clarifying that so that we don't have the house
Yeah.
connected. That it's, if there is a townhouse that would have a common wall or attachment easement, and then go on. So you're clarifying what it is.
Yeah, it's,
So you're hedging
I think
against the multiple houses.
it's covered, but if you
together.
feel comfortable adding townhouse, then we can do that.
Sounds clearer.
Yeah.
So you're recommending the wording being changed to if there is a townhouse with a?
Townhouse that would have a common wall or attachment easement.
Yeah, I
shared
just,
by-
I don't know, I don't know. I think that, what if there's another situation and it's a house, but it's not technically a townhouse, because I don't know all the building code definitions. But if there's I feel like just saying if there's a common wall, that applies to anything that it might apply to,
Regardless of what,
regardless of
Flavor
whether or
of the
not
house
it's
is.
technically a townhouse or, some other.
But if this is a townhouse district and the intent
Should be a
was
town-
townhouses back then.
Let's just say nothing but
Clarify
townhouse.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that way we can't have another engineer stand up and say,
But
"Why?"
but on page 1 under the principal uses, there are things other than just a townhouse. So I don't think you need to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe is there a building code difference between?
Yeah, between townhouses, condos, and duplexes?
Yeah.
Absolutely. They have very specific definitions, but when we're looking at this page we got right here, you talk about applicable uses. The one word that causes us the most problems, and Laura's got it circled here, and they took this out. The copy I has detached in it. Should not be there. So attached, which means townhouse. Okay, that's the same word as that. It could be a duplex, but that ain't gonna happen. I'm not gonna approve that, right? I mean, because it doesn't have a 2-hour wall, it have a 1-hour wall. So a attached single-family dwelling. Now the word multifamily here really doesn't matter if it's in there or not. None of us want apartments in the townhome district. So in the building code, okay, a townhome is a single-family dwelling. It's just attached to another single-family dwelling. A duplex is a 2-family dwelling. So it allows for duplexes in the townhome district. We don't like that. We like the word attached, not detached, because that opens our door to single-family dwellings that are detached, and we don't want that. But these definitions are very important.
Yeah, so I don't want to get too tied up because the definitions of the building code when they come in for a building permit are going to supersede anything that this says. But a multifamily structure could be, you might have what you might think of as a duplex that's actually a quadruplex, and there might be dwellings on the second floor separate than dwellings on the bottom, and they might still need to have a common wall, but is it at a townhouse? So that's why I hate to get too technical or too detailed in that word right there, because what if it's a duplex and it's not a townhouse? What if it's a quadruplex and it's not a townhouse, but they have a common wall?
Yeah, but he just said you have to have a 2-hour burn through. so
Right,
it
but
has
that's
to be-
his world, not this world.
Yeah, so
So
there's
we're
gonna
just
be a little-
regulating the use, and he's gonna regulate the structure.
This will protect us though from the side, because all we're going for here is if you're gonna put a single family home in the townhome district, you're gonna have to adhere to the setbacks.
Right.
Like a single family.
Exactly, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I think that does that, right? I mean, we may have another variance request, but
Would anyone like to make a motion to approve or deny the requested amendments to the land development code?
I'll make a motion to approve the requested amendment to the land development code with the one correction of removing the footnote
I second.
designation.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Tammy, would you please do a roll call?
Mr. Fasagi,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Crease,
Yes.
Mr. Elzey,
Yes.
Mr. Kerrigan.
Yes. Okay, thank you. All right, the last item on our agenda is an LDC update discussion. Again, Alara.
I will actually take that.
You will, thank you.
Absolutely. The past hour has shown us that we have some significant issues in the LDCs, excuse me, or LDRs, codes of regulations, whatever you want to call them. What we have done, what the council decided to do is spend some money on fixing some of the issues that we have. This is not the full comp plan rewrite or LDC rewrite at this point. We're just looking for some of the problem areas. Once we have better understanding of what the problem areas are, then the council intends to determine whether or not we have to move forward with committees and that sort of thing, or whether they're small enough bites that we can just simply ask Alara to handle these and say, hey, can you rewrite this? So we had an initial meeting with Alara and with your chair on this plan. So the presentation tonight, or my discussion item for you tonight, is just to fill you in on what the council is thinking as far as schedule and what the council is hoping that you, as planning and zoning, can participate or help them with. The bottom line is what they would like to get from planning and zoning is a list of these issues that you've encountered as part of the board over the past however long you've served. So examples of this are the setbacks, allowing residential and commercial, or contradictions. One, like you had mentioned, Mr. Roth, that is it 7.5, is it 10? It says different things in different places depending on what it is. So they're asking if you can please get those issues that you've encountered to me. I'm putting together those, as well as resident comments, as well as comments from Alara, as well as comments from the council, so that we end up with a list of things that we want to, or a list of things that we recognize need to be addressed, and then the council can determine what they want to do, pick and choose, what have you. The time frame they're looking at tonight is this presentation to P&Z. Week of December 16th, so probably the evening of the 16th. We're going to do 1 or 2 workshops with the citizens and the city council. The week of January 6th, probably the morning of January 8th, we're going to do the second of 2 workshops with citizens and council. And then at the city council meeting on January 13th, that's when they'll take a look at this list and decide how best to proceed, whether it is just those one-off things that we can fix or set up a full-blown committee to review and determine where to go next.
Can you repeat those dates, please?
Yeah.
The week of December 16th, you said?
Yeah, the week of December 16th, based on everybody's availability, it's looking like it'll be an evening meeting, a 6 p.m. meeting on the 16th itself.
Okay.
And then a 9 a.m. meeting on January 8th.
And those are for public comment?
Yeah, these are going to be their workshops. So public comment.
So a structured workshop where somebody's going to give a presentation, just asking for
Yeah, it's.
I don't know what you and whoever has talked about, or y'all have talked about for that.
What we're talking about, and the details have yet to be finalized, is these workshops will have a moderator participating to explain the process and help guide us down the process. The end result or the goal of each of these workshops is to get input from the residents as well as everyone else involved on the issues that we currently have. This isn't the comp plan rewrite, so this isn't something saying we want to completely redo the zoning map or what have you. We're using these workshops to give the public an opportunity to talk about any issues that they've seen with the comp plan.
And your request of us is to come prepared with the same type of thought.
Absolutely.
The type of things that we've encountered in the past. One of them that came up was modular structures, and I think the
Correct.
duration of those after hurricane.
Yeah, that's another great example. We have some businesses in modular structures, and we're not really certain Some folks think that we shouldn't have that based on previous versions. Current version says we can. So those are the types of things we need to clear up. Does that answer your question? Okay.
It does.
So my request is if you can get a list of those together, the sooner the better, because I'm going to be compiling everything. But we are asking for your participation then on the 16th and the
I'm not gonna be able to make the 8th.
8th. Okay.
When would you like the list?
Deadline for this would be a week prior. No, that's too soon. December 9th. Give me the 14th. What is that?
This is Saturday.
Okay.
But if we don't give it to you then, there's another meeting.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
there's another opportunity to provide input.
Exactly. Yeah, if you can have it to me what you can by the 13th, which is next Friday. Oh, that's ominous. Then I can start compiling that so we have it set to go for that Monday meeting. And again, the goal is to fix some of these issues and pain points to make it easier for residents, builders, developers, engineering companies, and all of you to be able to say, no, this clearly states this is the expectation of the requirement. That's all I got.
Chris, does that also mean, like, just looking at some of the buffer zones, like between, and I'm thinking more, there's not a lot we can do in what I call, as Lisa puts it, Old Town. Old Mexico Beach is what it is. But new commercial and new development, you know, you need more than a 10-foot vegetation buffer between residential and commercial, or even between two residential developments. And then in some cases in here, like there's 5-foot buffers and stuff.
Yeah.
It's silly stuff.
Yeah.
In my view.
That's the kind of stuff.
If we want the city to be pretty, you know.
Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff to bring up during this process.
And if you want the city to be what it used to be, which is,
Right.
you hear that a lot, you just need a lot of vegetation too.
Right. And
I hear comments all the time from clients
Yeah.
that come from Mexico Beach is, we can't believe the new building, but there's no trees.
I know we've got a building representative here, but it's like our tree ordinance, you know, or it's in, 10 to 12-foot trees. Nobody, I mean, I put in a couple that were 10 foot and one that was 14, but the others were 6 foot. Nobody's putting 10, 12-foot trees in. So
And if that's,
That could be on the list.
Yeah, add it to the list. If it's in the code, then it's an enforcement issue. If it's not in the code, then it's something that we can add or clarify.
And in fact, I asked the question just to make sure this morning that I was correct, because someone asked me the question. And then Kathy, our code enforcement, says, well, building department enforces that for COs. But apparently it's.
Well, there's caveats to that. We try, we leverage that as much as we can. Technically, that's a fine line when you're holding a CO for somebody's property. So we use that as some leverage. But trees are tough, like you said. So somebody's project's gonna be finished. How long am I gonna hold them up when they can't get a 12-foot, whatever kind of tree they wanna plant until 6 months from now? So it does cause some issues, and going back to the townhome district, that's another area that one tree for every 50 linear feet of property boundary, it don't work with townhouses.
Right.
So we do make concessions, common sense type concessions if we can, and it's not gonna, top of the apple cart. But those are definitely things that we have on the list to talk about.
And then like stormwater, there's some ridiculous things been done prior to CO granting.
Well,
It's like, you've gotta put a swale, or you've gotta put up a board wall to keep your water from going.
I don't handle stormwater.
That's Tommy,
I don't do things.
Sounds like you've already started on your list.
I've been going through it with my life.
All right. If there
Not to
be,
take up time.
anything else?
No, I'm good.
Anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, right, we're adjourned. Lee, Steve?